Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everybody, especially to Madam Siti Fatimah Nur Minhad. We are from Group MAC2205C, accounting student from UiTM Alor Gajah, Melaka. We would like to present our Group Project 1 Consolidated Financial Statements FAR620. First and foremost, I would like to introduce my group members. First, my name is FATIN AYUNI binti HAIRUDEN. Next, we have ALYA ZAFIRA binti ZAMRI, Syafiqa binti Arfalmalus, and NURSUHADA binti ZAMAN. Next, I would like to show you our presentation guide. First of all, we are going to present our question 1 about goodwill on acquisition of the subsidiaries, increase in shareholding, consolidated statement of profit or loss, consolidated statement of changes in equity, and consolidated statement of financial position. Next, we proceed with question number 2, consists of FAR620 investment associates. And B, we have deemed acquisition. Question number 3, we have calculation of gain or loss on disposal. And B, we have an investee become an associate. And lastly, we have question number 4 about power of the investor according to MFRS 10 consolidated financial statements. Question 1, Akuk Berhad and the subsidiaries. Next, as the first presenter, I would like to present about goodwill on acquisition of the subsidiaries. How to calculate the goodwill? The first step to calculate the goodwill, we have to determine the ultimate parent's interest. Let me summarize the acquisition of subsidiaries by Akuk Berhad in the question 1. On the 1st January 2018, Akuk Berhad has acquired 80% of the ordinary share in Mas Berhad, while in the 1st July 2020, Mas Berhad acquired 60% of the ordinary share in Tanjung Berhad. Since there is no information about direct interest of Akuk Berhad in the Tanjung Berhad, we can conclude that Akuk Berhad has indirect interest in Tanjung Berhad by 48%. We multiply 80% with 60%. Next, we calculate the goodwill on acquisition of Mas Berhad by 80%. Besides ordinary share, Akuk Berhad also acquired 2/3 of the debenture of Mas Berhad amounted 100 million. Apart from that, we minus the 490 million given in the question with 100 million. After that, we can get the consideration transfer amounted 390 million. After that, we adding out with NCI 20%, balance from the 80%, we multiply with fair value net asset. And we total up. After that, we minus back with the fair value of net asset. And then, if there is an impairment, we minus with impairment. After that, we can get the net goodwill amounted 108.8 million. Next, we proceed with the goodwill on acquisition of Tanjung Berhad by 48%. In this Tanjung Berhad, we apply indirect method. That's why we have indirect consideration transfer here. We can get this by 148 million. We multiply with 80%. And then we add it out with NCI, the balance from the 48, 52%, we multiply with fair value net asset. And then we can get the goodwill on the acquisition of Tanjung Berhad. Next, we move on with the question 1C, increase in shareholding. How to calculate the gain or loss on the second acquisition? Firstly, we take the consideration transfer on the date on acquisition. As this question, Mas Berhad acquired during the year 1st September 2020 amounted 13 million. And then we less with the fair value net asset consists of ordinary shares, pre-retained profit, and pre-revaluation reserve. Since Mas Berhad acquired during the year, we must apportion the retained profit by 8 months. And then the crucial step is we must multiply the total fair value net asset with 10%. And then after that, we can get the gain on the second acquisition of Mas Berhad amounted 33.2 million. This amount we must transfer to the consolidated statement of changes in equity.
Assalamualaikum. My name is NURSUHADA binti HAIROL. Now I will explain about the consolidated statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income for Akuk Berhad Group at the end of the year 31st December 2020. In this statement, all the closing balance for Tanjung Berhad need to be apportioned by 6 months because it is acquired during the year, which is on 1st July 2020. For revenue, we deduct 10 and 6 from the statement because of sold of goods on credit at additional information number 2 and 3. both the price of goods sold and unrealized profit from the company need to be deducted on the cost of sale as well. Depreciation on the disposal of equipment must be multiplied by 10% to be added to administrative expenses. Loss for disposal, which is on additional information number 1, also need to be deducted since it is an intra-group transaction. Share of profit in associate, which is Bunga Berhad, need to be apportioned by 6 months and it need to be multiplied by the holding percent, which is 40%. For investment and interest income, all the accrued must be added to the balance and will be deducted because it is an intra-group transaction. The total for our consolidated statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income is 130. Next, we will proceed on how to calculate the profit attributable to NCI and parent. Profit attributable to NCI can be calculated by deducting unrealized profit, debenture interest, and preference share dividend paid from the subsidiaries. Percentage of Mas Berhad will change from 20% to 10%, while percentage of Tanjung Berhad will be changed from 52% to 46%. Total of both profit attributable to NCI will be added up. The question is, where will we use the amount of profit attributable to the NCI and parents? This total of profit attributable will be added up at the statement of change of equity.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Syafiqa binti Arfalmalus. Alright, now it's my turn to explain on question 1E. This question asks us to prepare consolidated statement of changes in equity of Akok Berhad for the year ended 31st December 2020. Okay, now let me explain how to prepare the consolidated SOCI. In this statement, there will be group retained profit, NCI, and group revaluation reserve. There are also some elements will be included in this statement. First, balance brought forward. How we get the figure for balance brought forward? Okay, let's look at the working. For balance brought forward, we don't need to apportion according to the month. This is because the figure is the figure that occur before the second acquisition. That's why we do not need to show the increment in the balance brought forward and just multiply it with the original NCI and CI. Next, for acquisition during the year, we get the amount 103.74 cents. This figure is from the working of question 1B of goodwill on acquisition of Tanjung Berhad that explained by AYUNI just now. For profit or loss for the year, the amount is taken from the calculation of profit attributable. Suhada has explained it in the question 1D. Next, how we get the figure for dividend? Here is the working. For calculation of ordinary dividend, there is element that we need to minus, which is intra-interim dividend and intra-final dividend to get the exact amount of ordinary dividend. And then for preference dividend for Akok and Mas, we took the figure from the question. And then as for Tanjung Berhad, we will add up another 2 million as Tanjung does not record the transaction where they have proposed a full dividend of 5% cumulative preference shares on 31st December 2020. This information we get from the additional information number 5 in the question. Then, for indirect consideration transfer, we took the amount consideration transfer of 148,000 that provided in the question and multiply it with NCI of 20%. Next, for gain on acquisition of NCI, we took the amount from the calculation in question 1C that explained by AYUNI. Next, for asset revaluation reserve land of Akok, we took the amount of 20 million from additional information number 7. As for Mas, we need to apportion 2 million accordingly to the percentage of NCI of before and after acquisition because Mas Berhad is the subsidiary. And then for preference share of Mas and Tanjung Berhad, we just took the figure from the question. Lastly, for SOCI, we need to add up all the figure and then we get 375 RM5.60 for group retained profit, RM233.61 for NCI, and RM93.67 for group revaluation reserve. All of these figures will be transferred into consolidated SOFP.
Assalamualaikum. My name is ALYA ZAFIRA binti ZAMRI. I will proceed with question F, which is Consolidated Statement of Financial Position of ALYA Berhad Group as at 31st December 2020. For non-current asset, we have PPE. 1 million is a disposal of equipment. 0.1 million is a depreciation of equipment. 20 million is a revaluation surplus on land of ALYA, and 2 million is a revaluation surplus on land of MAS. So the total of PPE is 1289.9 million. Next, goodwill, 108.8 million plus 22.64 million, and the total is 131.4 million. Investment in bunga, we got 21.6 million. I will show the working after this. Continue with intangible asset, 7 plus 2 plus 6 million and plus 3 million. 3 million is ARR of brand. The total of intangible asset is 18 million. For current asset, first is inventory, 50 plus 48 plus 94 minus 1 minus 1. 1 million is unrealized profit of MAS, and another 1 million is unrealized profit of Tanjong, and the total is 190 million. For trade receivable, 5 million need to be deducted as settlement from ALYA to MAS and get the total of 176 million. Bill receivable, 9 million we got from half of 26 million and minus 4 million, which is discounted bills. This also need to be deducted in bill payable. The total is 126 million. Next, bank, 13 million is half of Tanjong bill payable, with 26 million divided by 2 and get the total of 73 million. So the total of asset is 2025.94 million. For equity, share capital is 720 million, GRP is 375.66 million, NCI is 233.61 million, and GRR is 93.67 million. These three we got from the calculation from Sochi. Next, non-current liabilities, 6% debenture, 150 times 1/3 because MAS only recorded only for 8 months and get a total of 50 million. Bank loan is 278 million. For current liabilities, total of trade payable is 152 million, total of bill payable is 84 million, accrual is 15 million, ordinary dividend payable is 9 million, which is got from 90% times 10 million, and the total is 21 million. Preference share dividend payable is 2 million, and lastly interest payable 1 million. So the total of equity and liabilities is 2025.94 million, which is same with the total of asset. I will show the working for investment in Bunga Berhad. Investment cost is 16 million. Then we will add post-acquisition reserve. Retained profit carried down is 28 million minus pre-retained profit of 14 million and get a total of 14 million. Post-acquisition reserve, we got 5.6 million, where we got from 40% of 14 million. So 16 million plus 5.6 million, we got 21.6 million. This is the carrying value of investment in associate that we transferred to consolidated statement of financial position just now.
Next, we will proceed to question number 2. As for question 2A, we need to state our opinion based on Damia and Nilisha views. Based on Damia and Nilisha views, they should not be content with the idea that the investment in Dilai Berhad should apply the acquisition method and the financial statement of Dilai Berhad should be consolidated with Mega Berhad in accordance with MFRS 10. Due to the percentage of Mega Berhad and Dilai Berhad, which is 40% less than 50%, it means the relationship between these two companies is an associate company under MFRS 128. According to MFRS 128, investment in associate and joint venture, an associate is an entity over which the investor has significant influence. If an entity holds directly or indirectly 20% or more of the voting power of the investor, it is presumed that the entity has significant influence. With regard in the situation of the question, due to MFRS 128, investment interest in Dilai Berhad is an investment with associate company and should be accounted under for equity method, and consolidation account is not required. Under the equity method, the investment in an associate company is initially recorded at cost and subsequently adjusted to reflect the investor shares of the net profit or loss of the associate. The equity method shows that the two entities have a substantial economic links. The investor report its portion of the investor's income as an investment income on the statement of income. If an investor has an important impact on the investor's operational and financial performance, the value of the investor's investment may be affected immediately.
Next, question 2B is about the relationship of Oak Berhad and Bish Berhad before and after the share buyback. Next, what is the deemed acquisition? A deemed acquisition takes place when the issued share capital and the number of share capital of the investee are reduced, but the shareholding of the investors remains unchanged. With the reduced issued share capital, the investor percentage of interest will increase. How to determine the relationship between two companies? First, we must determine the ultimate parent's interest. In this situation, Oak Berhad acquired 40% of the ordinary share issued by Bish Berhad, which gave it a 14 million ordinary share acquired by Oak Berhad. This indicates that Bish Berhad is an associate company to Oak Berhad, which their percentage is less than 50%. And then, recently, Bish Berhad redeemed a share buyback from other market other than Oak Berhad. In the deemed acquisition, when a subsidiary or an associate company acquired a share buyback, the issued share capital will decrease. And also from this case, apart from that, issued share capital of the Bish Berhad will decrease and the percentage of interest held by Oak Berhad will increase. After the share buyback of 30 million from other market, the percentage of interest held by Oak Berhad will increase from 40% to 57.14%, while the number of issued share capital by Bish Berhad will decrease by 100 million to 70 million. This turns a relationship of Oak Berhad and Bish Berhad and associate into a subsidiary company.
Now, I will explain on question 3A. This question requires us to calculate the gain or loss on the disposal of the share for the HIHI group. In order to fulfill the requirement, we need to make the calculation. So, how to calculate the gain or loss on the disposal of the share? Here we go. Firstly, we need to calculate the goodwill to be disposed because it is the changes from parent to associate. So, we need to calculate the goodwill to be disposed. As we can see in the calculation here, we had calculated the goodwill and the goodwill to be disposed is 10 million. That amount will be used to get the amount of gain or loss on disposal. After that, according to the question, the amount of proceeds is 50 million will be added with the fair value of remaining investment amounting to 20 million. From that figure, we then deduct 70 million of fair value of the net asset of Cucu Berhad. We also need to minus remaining goodwill that we calculated just now. At the end, the final amount is we get loss on disposal 10 million. Next, question 3B. This question asks us to discuss the relationship between HIHI Berhad and Cucu Berhad after the disposal. Is there any relationship between HIHI Berhad and Cucu Berhad after disposal? Okay, let me explain. The relationship between HIHI Berhad and Cucu Berhad after the disposal is the investee becoming an associate. This is because HIHI Berhad has terminated its relationship with Cucu Berhad by dispose part of its interest and begins a new investor associate relationship. The disposed part of its interest is still a return sufficient, which is 30%, to exert significant influence over the investee. The disposal of share in Cucu Berhad could result in the Hihi Berhad ceasing to be a subsidiary and becoming an associate. The share retained will be measured at fair value on the date the status have changed.
I will continue with question 4. The question asks, discuss whether any company has power over Great Berhad in accordance with MFRS 10. So, is there any company has power over Great Berhad? Let me explain the situation first. Apple Berhad hold 45% of voting right in Great Berhad, which is the company is the majority, while Strawberry Berhad and Coconut Berhad both hold 27.5% of voting right in Great Berhad. However, Coconut Berhad argued that it also has power over Great Berhad even though it holds lesser voting right. So, the answer is, an investor has power over an investee when the investor has existing substantive right that give it the current ability to direct the relevant activities. For example, an investor holds majority of the voting right of an investee. However, an investor can also have power even it holds less than a majority of the voting right of an investee. An investor can have power with less than a majority of the voting right of an investee. For example, through A. A contractual arrangement between the investor and other vote holders. B. Right arising from other contractual arrangement. C. The investor's voting right. D. Potential voting right. Or E. A combination of A until D. Based on the explanation, Coconut Berhad and Strawberry Berhad has a power over Great Berhad, even though both only hold about 27.5%, which are less than a majority voting right of Apple Berhad, which is 45%.